Welcome back everyone. I hope you got yourself a refreshment after that short break. Also really hope that you've enjoyed the last few sessions that we've covered over this morning. In this session we'll be looking at Twinmotion. It may be a new name to a lot of you, but Autodesk partnered with Epic Games in November 2022. I'm really excited about this next session. Visualization is a big demand for the ever-growing construction industry. In this session I'm going to be supported by Robin Bills. We're going to be taking a deep dive into Twinmotion, providing you with an introduction on what output you can get from using Twinmotion inside Revit. We'll aim to cover all the features and all the functions that enable you to take visualization to that whole new next level. There's some huge advantages for anyone that wants to show that real-time render and replicate that view in Revit. So over to you, Robin Bills, who's the technical director here at Man & Machine, to present you through some of the features and functions within Twinmotion. If you do want to get in contact with myself, you can email me at marcus.brooks@manandmachine.co.uk, or you can ask questions in the box. I really hope you enjoy this next session.
Thanks Marcus, good introduction. So hello everyone, it's me, it's Robin, Technical Director here at Man & Machine in the UK. And it's a pleasure actually to be delivering this session on Twinmotion. Actually I've been looking forward to this session ever since we announced this event, because this product and its now availability to the Revit masses is actually quite exciting. So let's explain it from the beginning, explain what's happened, how you access it, and then we will show you the product as best I can in the next half an hour or so. So first things first, if you have a Revit subscription, you have access to Twinmotion. It comes as part of that subscription. Whether you're in an architectural engineering construction collection, or if it's a subscription of full Revit, you will have access to this application and tool set free of charge. Any of you that have used this tool before may have been used to downloading the Epic Games store, which was quite laborious and quite painful and actually quite restrictive to some organisations who couldn't download that particular thing. Nowadays you just download Twinmotion for Revit, job done. So let's just jump in and take a look. So first things first, let's just jump onto my browser here and show you that if we log on to our manage.autodesk.com account, I'm just going to go to my products listing and search for Revit. And what you'll see is through my subscription to Revit, we've got Twinmotion for Revit right here. Okay. If I was to click on Access, it takes me to the Twinmotion website, gives me some system specifications. They're really important for Twinmotion. I'm running off a fairly high spec Dell Precision mobile workstation today with an RTX card in it. But make sure you're running a decent enough spec. Come and reach out to Marcus or one of the rest of the sales team to get more information or advice on that. And just download the version that's relevant for the version of Revit that you're running. I'm in Revit 24, so I've downloaded the latest version of Twinmotion. Fairly big download, 17 gigabytes or so, so it takes about half hour or so to download, but then you are ready to go. So what we're going to do for this is use one of the brand new sample files in Revit 2024. I don't want to take too much away from Bianca, who's on in the session next after me, but one of the new features of Revit 24 is you've got a whole new suite of sample files for our architecture, structure and mechanical. And I'm just using the architectural one of this because A, it's probably a file that none of you have seen before, and actually for visualization it's quite good. It suits what I'm about to show in Twinmotion quite well. So workflow wise, this is really straightforward. I've got a 3D view inside of Revit with my my building design, and in the context here we've got some other buildings and a site modeled up as well, which I'm going to use inside of Twinmotion. So what we're going to do is get to a 3D view that we want to send to Twinmotion. We go to our View tab inside of Revit, and we now have a Twinmotion tool. That tool has a load of options next to it. I'm just going to say Open in Twinmotion. And what that will do is it will take this model, and in the background, without getting into too much of the technical detail, it will export this to an FBX file. Twinmotion will open up. It will import the FBX file, and then we'll be ready to do our real-time visualization. As I'm doing this live, it's just going to take a few moments to do that initial synchronization. But once it's done once, generally speaking, you save that Twinmotion file as a Twinmotion file format, and then it's much quicker to open and work with that file. The other great thing is once it's inside of Twinmotion, it opens up a whole load of other workflows like live synchronization. So if you make a change in Revit, you can push that change directly to Twinmotion straight away without having to lose progress on your render or your materials or whatever else that you've added inside of the application. So what is Twinmotion good for whilst you wait for it to load? It's real-time visualization. So like other software out there on the market, it allows you to live walk around a model with a much nicer, much more finished and much more refined visualization than what you get directly inside of Revit. So you'll be walking around a live render in essence. Because of that, we can also work with VR, we can export imagery very quickly, and we can export animations really quickly as well. So we get some options with regards to the import. I'm just going to come into a new project, and we're not going to go through the whole breadth of options that you get today, but we do get the ability to say that I want things to be grouped by material or collapsed individually. For today, I'm leaving everything as default because I kind of want to show you how easy it is to get started in Twinmotion and how quickly you can start to get some results. So we'll leave everything as default. As you can see, Twinmotion has started up in the background and it's now going to load in my Revit model into this interface. And it just takes a few more minutes. So whilst I've been going on for, what, a minute and a half whilst it's been synchronizing that, again, just think about what it's done. It's a fairly big chunk of a building, this one. So it's taken that and it's brought it into Twinmotion, and now we have the model available inside of the interface. I'm just going to zoom out a little bit. I am just going to look at the corner of my eye, make sure that it's streaming okay with the quality, which it is, which is great. And we're just going to have a look around. So the first thing you can see is that everything just looks a little bit more polished. Everything's a little bit more refined. We get nice sharp edges, we're getting some shadows, and we're getting something that looks quite nice already. But everything's pretty default from a Twinmotion perspective. Now there's a couple of things that I'm just going to get rid of. So whenever you bring a file into Twinmotion, the way I've got it set up is it creates like what's called a starting ground, just a flat plane at the bottom of the model. I'm going to turn that off because we've got some site context already modeled here inside of Revit. So we're going to ignore the starting ground. And I can do the exact same for the starting landscape there in the distance. I just don't need that on for the purpose of what we're going to show today. So we're going to turn that off. And what you can see, as I say, is we get a nice, fairly consistent, smooth finish. You have to apologise my orbiting. I'm using my high-powered workstation through the streaming machine here, so it's there's a little lag when I orbit. So if I jump out of the context of the model, you'll just have to excuse me for just like that, for the purpose of this demonstration. So what we're going to do here is just show you the benefit of using this tool set. Why would we go about using Twinmotion, and how can we use the tool sets in here to our benefit? So let me just get back to the outside of the model. Again, just bear with me while I get used to the lag that I've got on my input. And we're going to work on this area at the top of the building rather than the whole of it. So when you have a material inside of Revit, it's very different to having a material inside of a rendering environment. So in Revit, the materials are fairly flat. You do have a normal map inside of Enscape that, sorry, wrong word, inside of Twinmotion, that was close, inside of Twinmotion that we can use, where we have a bump map. So in Twinmotion, we have more of a rendering feel. So I can come on to any material and start to give it some texture. For example, I'm going to go and find a brick material. So we're going to spin around ever so slightly here and just move over to the left, and we've got this brick wall. Let's just hide this, this foliage that we have on the left-hand side. So this brick material, as you can see, is fairly flat. What I'm going to do is use my library on the left-hand side. I've got a search. If I want to search in there, I can. But I'm just going to manually browse through just to show you the breadth of different materials we have in there. I'm going to go and find a material that I like the look of, like this one, Clean Brick 8, and I'm going to drag and drop that onto one of the surfaces. Okay, this one here is fine. Once that brick's been dropped, I get a load of options for tweaking and customizing that particular appearance. We can change the luminosity to define how luminous this is with regards to light. We can change the UV map, so how does it wrap around a spherical surface, or does it work with box mapping or planar mapping to control how that material is dropped onto a surface. Clearly this is very small in comparison to the Revit material, so I'm just going to bump up the scale here. I'm just doing it by eye for the purpose of today. I've got the benefit of being able to do that. Clearly you would be maybe a little bit more particular when it comes to working with that material. But if I just, and again, excuse the the very juddery navigation, I'm just still trying to get rid of the delay. If we're going to have a look at this brick, just from like an ISO perspective, hopefully it's coming across on the stream there. You can see there's a depth. So what we've got isn't like this green screen behind me, it's not flat. I don't know why I'm rubbing the green screen, you can't see that. It's not flat, there is texture to it. So I can actually see the mortar joints and any other particular detail that is in that texture. And that's all controllable through the options here. I can change the roughness to control how pristine or rough those bricks look. If I scroll down, I have normal settings, and I can control the normal map or bump map. So I can make it look very caddy, very flat, or I can make it look more like a texture, which is exactly what we want. And Twinmotion, using the Unreal Engine, which is a gaming engine, uses that really, really well. And just by doing that, instantly it starts to bring the model to life. Whilst we're only doing a little bit of this here for today, you can imagine how very quickly we can start chopping and changing and adding this different level of information and detail to our model. Now I can come on and start adding different materials as I see fit, and every material that you add, if you want it to be, can be different. So if I wanted to treat one particular part of this slightly differently, if I wanted a different scaling or a different normal map, again we can come in and do that. So it's almost like I've taken this across into something like Max, but without the complexity of using a system like that. So we can come in and control this to the nth degree. So let's come in and add a few more materials. So we've added our brickwork over there. Let's grab maybe this front face of this raised area of garden here. We're going to go back to our materials and maybe find some wood. So let's scroll down. Hopefully these are in alphabetical order. I don't actually think they are. There we go, wood. Oops. That serves me right for using my mouse. Scroll back a little bit. We're going to go and grab some wood and again place a wooden texture. Someone just move the mouse over there. Just place the wooden texture here on the side. I've just been notified that there is a bit of a sound issue. It might be the fact that the stream is using a lot of internet resources, so please bear with me. Just let me know if that's any better. No, the same. Okay, I'm going to keep going. There's not too much I can do with the stream going on here. I've just got to find myself in the model again. Looks like I've got a few issues with juddery connection. Apologies. Let me get back to where I was. So what we're going to do is add a wooden material to this bit here. Again, it's just because I'm driving this through through a remote connection. It seems to be struggling a little bit. So we're going to use my wood surfaces here. I'm just going to scroll down, and again, these are all really nice, high quality materials. And again, we can add our own. So if there's something on there that you're not overly fond of, or you want to have a slightly different type of material, we can do that. I'm going to go and pick this chestnut wood and drop it over here. And again, I'm just going to scale that up just by eye to something that looks a little bit nicer. So I'm going to go to about 5. Generally speaking, we will go around and start adding as many different textures and materials as we see fit in this model so that it looks and feels the way that we want to. So I've got that wood added there. Let's come over to these marble balls here. I'm very conscious that I keep flying away from the screen, so I'm very purposely navigating very carefully. It's not normally how I would navigate around, so apologies. We've got some concrete balls here for decoration, so let's change the color of those. So we're going to go to concrete and maybe just go ahead and grab a bare concrete material and drop it onto those balls. Quite happy with the default scaling, that's fine. Let's go back to our materials library and search for gravel. And we can go and find a gravel material and again drop it and change the scale. Maybe we want to have 4 or 5. And instantly, again, if I can get close enough to this, it's just outstanding how good you can make a flat material look just by dragging and dropping a texture. It starts to look, excuse the pun, unreal. It works really, really well. I'm not going to spend all the time just adding materials on because actually that won't show you much from a functionality perspective, but we'll start to go in and add texture and add material all the way around this model to make it look the way that we want to look. The same goes with regards to things like glass or anything that sits on a more, let's say, atypical family inside of Revit. So if we come to these panels over here, which are maybe done with a curtain wall panel or something like that, we've got all sorts of stuff that we can start to add. So I can come in and I've got some plastic wall coverings and I can start to add some 3D wall coverings and up the scale on those to really get some nice texture and make these look a little bit more like they would in reality. Let's just add a couple more. Let's change the wooden material around the outside of this particular door frame just so it looks a little bit nicer when we finish everything off later. I'm going to go for this nice walnut material and we'll do the same around the outside of the door. Let's go back and choose some glass and just show you again the nth degree of detail that we have when it comes to the different types of things like glass. So we've got privacy glass, tinted glass, two-tone glass, mirrored glass, and everything works the way that you would expect it to. I'm going to go and grab two-sided glass and just drag and drop that on the door there. Again, it gives you the reflections. It's showing you that you're getting these rendered results. So what else can we do as well as adding materials? Well, as well as adding materials, in our library, we've also got the ability to add objects. These are all out of the box. I haven't added anything in here that isn't an atypical out of the box object. But I can come in and do stuff. So this planter here is pretty dull, so I'm going to turn it off. And then in its place, I'm going to add an object directly from the library in Twinmotion. So I'm going to go library, vegetation, vegetation? No, not vegetation, we want city. So library, let's go into objects, let's go to city. Somewhere I've got planters, great. These are going to be a little bit big, so I've got to find one that suits the location. Maybe that one there. Just click it once and then I've got it attached to my mouse. You can see that if I place that down, it's snapping to all my surfaces from Revit, so I don't have to do any messing around with alignment, which works really well. But then also once you've got it, we can select it. We've got a gizmo which allows us to rotate it and move it around freely should we want to. Those objects can be added to, so whilst these are all out of the box, you can create your own custom objects. They're just imported in a 3D format and you can bring them across with materials, without materials, and work on them as you see fit. But we can very quickly start to add any number of objects in as we see fit. Again, I'm not going to go to the nth degree with regards to adding all of the different types of component in the world, but we're going to come in and add a bench here alongside our planter, and this time we'll just rotate that bench round like so. You can see all of the shadows and the lighting is all updating automatically for me, and apart from the fact that I have a bit of a lag when I move around the model, as you can see, everything is updating in real time. So as well as placing typical components, and this is for me where my inner geek starts to come out a little bit, we also have the ability to place animated components. So animated components such as particle effects. So if you've got a fireplace inside your house, we can put fire in that fireplace. If we've got like a moody scene, we could add some dry ice effect or some smoke effect almost, should you really want to. We can also add running water, showers, and all sorts of things to add to the ambience and the quality of our scene. I don't have any examples that I can use that in here. Maybe I should have added a fire pit. But if I go to particles and just add a small fire on top of my plant there, to be able to do that easily, quite frankly, is ridiculous. I am a Max user of 20 odd years, and whilst I can add particle effects and add fire animations inside of Max, it takes me some time. I can just drag and drop it in here regardless of how good or how much of a beginner I am at an application. And the same goes for other different things as well. Maybe we want an exfil on this roof, so we'll add some green smoke. Whatever you want to do, we can do it. It's nice and quick. And again, these are just sample ones. We can add as many as you want to. Alongside those, we can also go into things like, okay, let's go to city. No, not city, sorry. Let's go to our library. Let's go to characters. Let's go to animated humans, and let's take Amir here and place him in the garden. You have a fully animated character with customization options on the right hand side. So if I want to put him on the bench, I can make Amir sit down, grab the gizmo here and move him onto the bench. I can change his clothes, change the type of sitting that he's doing, and make him suit the scene. It's ridiculous how quickly you can bring things to life. Let's add Emily here to the scene as well, and we'll stick her standing up and facing Amir having a conversation, like so. As well as individual characters, we can also add things like animals, which could be something like a cow or some sheep in a field, maybe a goat, if you're that way inclined with regards to your renders, or we can go and add some things like nature, some butterflies, some birds and stuff like that. So, you know, you've got some real great functionality here that just brings so much to your renders. We can also add things like vegetation. And I haven't got to the whole breadth of detail that you can get to for animations. To give you an example, although I'm not showing it today, I could take a door or a window that's been modeled in Revit, and I can open that door. Whether it's a hinge door, a sliding window, whatever it might be, we can animate those inside of Twinmotion. Again, it's easy. It just uses like a keyframe animation. So it works extremely well. One of my favorite tools is actually the vegetation painter. So, you know, no matter how many custom materials and things like that I put on this rooftop area, it still looks pretty dull. And most of that is due to the flat grass here. And actually we can very nicely work on that inside of Twinmotion. So if I grab the grass just with a standard selection, I'm going to right click it over here in my browser, and I'm going to say that I want to isolate it to get rid of everything apart from that one piece of grass. Let's just center it in my view a little bit, trying not to overly zoom, because it seems that is very sensitive on my mouse. What we're going to do is come down the bottom. I've imported my model. Let's imagine that I've added all of the textures under the sun. And from there, I'm going to go to populate. We've got a few options with populate, and I'm going to show you a couple of them. But if I go to foliage, I can choose to either paint or scatter foliage based on some pattern parameters around my model. So I'm going to choose paint. I quite like using the paint because it's a bit more responsive to what I want to do. And again, machine spec's important here. I'm running off a decent laptop, so please keep that in mind. But I'm going to go to foliage, and then with my foliage what I can do is use this library of vegetation to build up some foliage to use in a paintbrush scenario. So let's lower this diameter to about 2, so it's something a little bit more relevant to what I'm painting. And let's come into grasses. Let's go to grass and flowers, and let's say that I want to have long grass 3, drag and drop over here. I also want to have some clover, because who doesn't have a lawn without clovers in it? And maybe just because we can, we'll add an element of tall grass, and we'll add some violets. Why not? Then for each one of those, we have a density. So the grass, I want really dense. The clovers, got a pretty good lawn, so I want those fairly low. Tall grass, I want fairly low. And then violets, maybe somewhere in the middle. And then for each one of those, I've got a size. So as well as controlling a density, I can control the size of each one of those individual components that we have in our model. And then we go to paint. We have a paintbrush size, and I'm going to click and hold and just move my mouse very carefully over that surface. If I wasn't streaming, I'd maybe be a little bit less careful. But again, what is quite astronomical, and I really hope that's coming through on the stream, my grass is a bit long, but I'm going to stick with it. I mean, just look at that. I'm going to try and zoom in a bit closer. Not only do we have fully detailed foliage, I mean, come on, it's animated. Let's turn off the isolation. It's a bit long. We need to get a lawnmower out here, but we don't have time for that. Let's embrace nature. It looks good. I mean, come on, that looks great. Instantly, that brings the scene to life. It's fantastic. We can do that with trees, different bushes, all sorts of things. You don't have to be an expert. I've just used a paintbrush to paint this on and chosen what kind of vegetation level I want. If I did the same here and had spent maybe 10-15 minutes more changing these materials, how good is that? How quick? Included in your Revit subscription, there we go. Included in that subscription, you can instantly start getting these kind of results, which for me, I mean, I know I'm a geek, but that's pretty special. And at the moment, this is just using the Unreal Engine 4. Any of you that are quite technical, like myself, who have seen footage of the Unreal Engine 5, as this program gets updated, this is going to be astronomical what this can do for you as a landscape architect, a designer, or anyone that wants to render part of that file. This is great, and I really hope it's coming through and I'm doing it justice. I can't leave this material here flat. It looks terrible. So let's do the same thing again. Let's isolate it, move over to the right-hand side, and let's just do a different one. So populate, foliage again. This time let's pick our lawn grade grass. Let's turn the density up. Let's have the size a little bit bigger, and let's paint it on. Maybe a little bit less dense than I was hoping for, but hey ho, you get the idea. We then have, that's terrible, oops, different grass. Give me different grass. There we go. That looks a little bit nicer, and we'll paint that on there as well. Great. So instantly we can start getting something that it just looks better, and it's not difficult to do. It works really, really well. Again, we've got a short session today, but imagine I'd gone to the breadth of doing that level of detail to this entire model. You've got something that instantly comes to life. Okay, so what next? I've started putting some stuff on there. What else can I do? Well, when you're ready to, we can start getting this and getting an output. So we get the camera to where we want, and we can tell Twinmotion that this is a piece of media that we're going to want to export. So I have an image, I press plus, and I give that image a name. Now this is where this gets really crazy. I've got an image, Twinmotion knows that I have an image. What do you want to do with it? And I'm just going to take a sip of water while I move this slider and make it rain. Have a look at what's happened to the materials. It doesn't do it justice where the grass is, but look at the concrete on the right hand side. It's got a shine to it. It's wet. The materials have actually got wet and is showing a wet material. If you're on a street, you would actually see puddles, which again is pretty special, just getting that, not having to mess around with decals and things like that. What about if it's winter? It makes it snow. There is a depth of snow on top of components. I mean, those spheres are ridiculous. It knows that there is a depth of snow on top of the light, on top of the ground, on top of the walls, and it's put that in there. Again, it's just doing things that you wouldn't have otherwise thought possible. And we can customize each of these to control. We want to see it in the summer, we want to see it in the winter, we want to see it in the autumn. Even as far as if I place a tree and change it to autumn, the tree leaves will go orange and brown. If you go to winter, the tree will have no leaves on it. It really does work well. It kind of does a lot of your work for you. As well as still images, we can have animations. We want to start the animation here. We want to, this is going to be difficult with this lag. Oh dear. We want to move up a little bit, not quite that high, and then add a second image. Maybe we're going to attempt to look down. I should have plugged in my space mouse. That would have probably made things better. Let's add, one, there, and go all the way around and look at one over there. If I go back to the beginning and play, it will animate between those camera snaps. You can go to the camera snaps and change any of those at any point. You might want to make one, oh, rain at that point, snow at that point, change this animation, change that animation. I've done that video in 2 parts, so it cuts between them, but they can be as long or as short as you need them to be. You can also create panoramas, virtual reality walkarounds and presentation modes, so that as you come up to a door, the door opens, you go in, the door closes, the lights come on, so on and so forth. It's a presentation tool to show and share information and models visually with clients and other people in the design team. You have a whole load of other settings that you can do for each of those outputs. So if you really want to tweak and adjust those images, different exposure, change camera settings, lens flare, motion blur and things like that, again, you can do so just using the informative and really easy to use sliders on the right hand side. You don't have to be an expert by all means. Just a couple more things to share really, just to finish this off. I'm just going to go down to street level, or at least try and go down to street level with the control that I'm struggling a little bit here with the mouse. We want to add some wider scale animation. What can we do? Let's go to populate, let's go to paths, and let's add a character path. I want to have a character path, and I'm just going to click several times along this path. I'm not going to go all the way to the end. I'm going to then right click to confirm. And then with this path, it's placing characters. I can change the width. So what have we got there? A bit of pavement that's 2-3 meters wide. Let's make this 2 meters wide. Density of people, let's up that to 30%. We want the individuals to walk, or we could say that they are stood still. We want office clothing, travel clothing, Middle Eastern clothing. We can have this in any way, shape, form we want to. When you make a change, it takes a couple of minutes just to reload those characters in, and then you're back into live, real time, he says, with slightly jerky click, let go motion, because I've got this bit of a lag between my 2 machines, which I've probably said about 20 times in this presentation so far. But again, how good is that? With your Revit subscription, I can render, I can add texture, and I can add context, as simple as that. Let's do one more. Path, vehicle path, and I'm going to click a few times down this road. Maybe we'll try and zoom out a little bit and turn a corner just because we can. Right click to confirm. We have vehicles driving down the road. They are having a bit of an issue when it gets to the end of the road, but we have vehicles that are driving down the road. We can up the lanes, we can have 2-way direction, we can have lane offset. Bit of an issue with people on the path there. Let's go back to a 1-way direction. You get the idea. It's easy. This is the software making me look good, not the other way around. Although I've been doing this for a very long time, this is very easy to use. And if I was to spend a day with someone, you could learn this piece of software inside out and really get some remarkable results. It works really, really well. So last thing then from me, I think, before I see A, if there's any questions, and B, pass back to Marcus for some closing thoughts. What about if I make a change? So let's imagine I spend all this time inside of Twinmotion, inside of Twinmotion, and something changes in Revit. Do I have to go through the process and do all of this again? The simple answer is no. I can come in on my, where's my start bar gone? I can come in on my Revit model and make that change. So let's do something really simple for the purpose of this. You could add, you could remove, delete, or modify. So let's grab something simple so that the machine doesn't have a hissy fit during the live session. I'm going to delete that window. I'm going to delete this signage here, he says. There we go, and I'm going to delete that sign. Is it pinned? Oh, it's in a link. Can't delete the sign, it's in a link. What else can we do? Can we do this? There we go, store signage. Come on, there we go. Let's delete that store sign. And then maybe from there, we're going to do something very simple like add a table just there. Go to View, Twinmotion, Synchronize. You can turn on auto sync if you want to. If you've got a powerful enough machine with 2 monitors, Twinmotion's open there, Revit's open there. You can now allow auto sync, so the 2 synchronize together. I've just done it manually, and then with a bit of luck, we'll go back to Twinmotion here. Instantly, without pressing anything, it's processing those changes in the background, and we should now see a deleted window and the table that's been added wherever I added that on the street, and the sign that's been the sign that's been deleted as well. Come here. Okay, for some reason it's not added the table in, but you can see the sign's gone there, so it synchronizes those changes as well. So let's recap. Comes with Revit. You subscribe to Revit through a collection or through Revit standalone, not LT, full Revit only. You get access to Twinmotion. Download it through manage.autodesk.com. Takes about half an hour. You then get real-time visualization, and hopefully I've given it justice. It's easy. It works really, really well. And from my perspective, you know, it just gives you something that you can go and have a look at, have a play with, and enable your workflows to do something that you otherwise might not have been able to do. So I think from me, that's kind of all I want to show. Has there been any questions that have come through during the session? VR, absolutely. So yes, it supports VR, much like other applications like this on the market. We can stick a VR headset on and we can walk around this environment with a VR headset on. Like other things like Enscape, just be careful with the settings. Don't expect that if you can run it maximum in your viewport that it's going to run maximum on the headset. Reach out to Marcus or one of his colleagues on the sales team if you want some advice on graphics cards and system specifications when it comes to running things like Twinmotion, either with or without VR. Okay, so I think from that perspective, thank you very much for watching. If you think of a question after today, then then feel free to reach out, is what I'm trying to say. But from me, that's it. Thank you very much. I'm going to hand over to my colleague and friend Marcus just to close the session off. Catch you next time. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Robin. That was a real great presentation on Twinmotion. Twinmotion clearly is a unique plugin that can take visualization to that whole new level. There's a couple of features I really liked from Robin's presentation. The main one was that seamless integration between Revit and Twinmotion. This is something that I know a lot of my customers have been missing for a long time until now. For all of the customers that currently have a license of Revit, like Robin said beforehand, you can now create renders and visualizations all in one environment at no extra cost. And just back to what Robin said, if you do have a Revit LT license, unfortunately this feature is not available to you. If you want to get in contact with myself or the team, we can come up with some solutions and see what we can do to help and support you guys. I also really liked how quickly you can click a button and get that FBX file and import it straight into Twinmotion. I can think of several customers straight away who will benefit from having the ability to click a button and create a visualization and get that render straight away. So hopefully you all enjoyed that last session. I know we had a few technical questions around the workflow and other product specifics, and also around hardware requirements. I also want to say a big thank you to everyone that's joined in and tuned in for this session. I'm really looking forward to speaking with you all in the foreseeable future. Thank you.